So good day, friends. This is Dr. Bob Hamilton, and you have tuned in today to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. Thank you so much for making us part of your day. Happy 4th of July. We're going to talk about the 4th of July coming up a week from today. But if you like what you hear on these programs, pass it on to your friends. We appreciate, I know you guys are all busy people, so the fact that you're here today makes me happy. And if you like what you hear, share it with your friends and family. So today it's a pleasure to welcome a friend of mine. He's also got a big job a week from today. He's the guy who heads up the 4th of July parade in Santa Monica, California. He's been doing it for 16 years. He's also a real estate agent in commercial real estate in his spare time, I guess. And Jeff Jarow, it's a pleasure to have you today on the Hamilton Review.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This is great.
So, Jeff, what we like to do is these conversations we like to just kind of talk to people and kind of find out who you are, what makes you tick. And I like to begin by asking you a little bit about who you are, your background, where you're from, how you found your way to Santa Monica, California, the things that you're doing. And I know that you do a lot. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. Okay. Jeff Jarow, here he is.
Hi, everybody. So first I'd like to comment on where kids and culture collide, because I'm a kid at heart. Recently, a friend of mine who I invited to the symphony and to the opera, he says, "You like all that cultural stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I do, actually. You know, you don't think about what you like and don't like, and then you look at your history in past years." And I said, "I guess I am that person, you know, my involvement in stuff around town."
Sure.
I think about, I did the same thing when I was in college, and then somebody sent me something from high school that I created a teenage cafe, you know, like the Sundance Cafe with music and stuff. So
you've always been community minded.
Yeah, I never thought about it, but I guess I am, you know, and it's once you get involved, it's really hard to shake. I'm the guy who never says no. And I don't like to be around people that say no, you know, like let's try it, you know.
Yeah.
So my personal background is, I tell this story a lot. So I came out to visit a friend, and I was here for 2 weeks, and I grew up in New York, and people on the East Coast always think California is a flaky place, fruits and nuts, whatever term they put on it. And I came out here and I said, wow, there's no humidity, and, you know, there's mountains, and there's no bugs. and I had things that I was used to just fell by the wayside, because, you know, you can do whatever you want out here. They're actually saying that in commercials now, to come to California, you know, where you could be open-minded and think broadly about anything and nobody puts you down for it, you know. So I had 2 of the best weeks of my life, and I went back to New York, and I put on my suit and tie in Manhattan, back in the days when we wore suit and ties, you know.
Yeah.
And I stepped off a curb, and this, talking about December, you know, my foot went through the ice, and all the water of Manhattan went in my shoes. And I looked down. I'll tell you how long ago it was. I went over to the phone booth, and I put in a dime, and I dialed, and I said, I quit. And 3 weeks later, I was driving cross country, and I never looked back. I guess my mom and dad thought, yeah, let him get it out of his system.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be back. And I never went back. And many, many years later, my mother went on a vacation with my sister. So I said to my dad, why don't you come out and visit? And he said, okay. And I said, oh my God, I can't believe I just... So he came out, and I used to have...
are you talking about New York City, like Manhattan, or in Brooklyn?
I was living down in Manhattan, in the East Village.
Okay, and your parents...
the hippie capital of the world.
At the time, yeah. And your parents lived where?
At the time, they were living in New York as well.
Like in Manhattan, on the island?
No, they actually, the family was from Harlem.
Okay.
You know, a lot of diversity there.
Sure,
you know?
Absolutely.
And my parents, you know, people in New York, they always like yell at each other. You know, they don't yell hostility. They talk loud, and
Yeah.
And I think as a 15-year-old, I said to my mom, I said, I don't understand. If you guys were always at each other, They didn't never hit it. They never hit each other. They never cursed each other. They just, you know,
We're loud. Yeah.
loud, you know. And I said, God, as a naive 15-year-old, I said, I don't understand. Why did you ever get married? You know, it's not supposed to be like this. And my mother said, well, we were living in Harlem, and the kids from the rest of Manhattan or Brooklyn or Queens, whatever, they wouldn't come up here to Harlem to date me. And your father lived across the hall, so we got married.
It worked.
And it worked.
It worked.
So when I was born, the place got too small, and they moved out to Long Island.
Okay.
Long Island, you know, I'm sure it sounds like that.
Yes.
And that was it. That was my experience. And my dad took the train every day at 7 o'clock in the morning and went into Manhattan. At 7 o'clock at night, he came back to the house. And that's as much as I saw my father. And the weekends, you know, we'd go out, do stuff. But during that week, you know, and I laugh because as a father now, and having my kid local and me local, how much time I spent with my kid and taking time off of work to go to baseball and soccer and everything else he did.
Sure. Yeah.
And and when he was born, I got involved with the preschool. I got involved in his elementary school. I got involved with the high school. I was the PTA legislative rep for the school district to go
Wow.
to Sacramento.
Wow.
And during this time, you know, getting community minded.
So let me just kind of back up. So your parents, okay, so you grew up in New York, you were out in Long Island there, and but were your parents community minded people? Were they involved in any way?
Well, my father not so much because he was always at work.
Yeah.
It's not like he traveled, but that was that 12-hour span during the day he was in Manhattan doing.
And what did he do?
Textiles for shirts.
Okay. Gotcha.
So he designed the material and then they sent it out
Yeah.
to the mills to send the rolls of textiles to the shirt manufacturers.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when he came home, the presents I got was, back in the day, it was a shoebox with 4 shirts. All blue, one with a red pinstripe, one with a yellow pinstripe, one with a white pinstripe. Or I got a check shirt, one with a red check on it. And that's the way they packaged shirts back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to wear. But my dad would go around to every clothing store and I'd say, I really like that shirt. And he would touch the material and he'd say, that's garbage. And I find I do the same thing now. I can look at a whole rack of clothes and just scan it and pick out one. I look at the material, look at the textiles I touch. So I don't understand this whole thing about people ordering clothes and shoes in Amazon. You know, I would never do that.
So you have to touch them.
Yeah, and I enjoy going out and touching and feeling.
And actually, okay, well, that's why there are retail stores. There's
right. There's a few left.
One retail store.
That's right. There's one left for me. It's got my name on it.
So your parents, your dad, obviously your dad was a working guy. And I think that, by the way, Jeff, just thinking about what you're talking about, your dad getting up in the morning, going to work, very faithful on his job. That was kind of how it was. I mean, that was kind of what dads did. My dad was
Beaver.
My dad was the same way. My dad got up and he worked, and it wasn't like he came to my baseball games.
That's right.
I didn't expect him to. Really, I don't feel any remorse about that. It was
Neither
just
do I.
that was just kind of like
That's right.
that's what my dad did,
That's
and he was that's his role, and that was what he wanted to do, really. But you got involved, and so you've always been a guy who's been involved in wherever environment, whatever thing that you're doing.
That's right.
You found a way to enhance it and make something of it.
In high school, started this Sundance Cafe.
Yeah.
So in the rec center in town, we got them to agree to give us the rec center in the big gymnasium on a Saturday night. And we went through the neighborhood and we scrounged around for rugs and old chairs and old couches. And we put it in there. There's no alcohol.
Sure.
And one of the kids who was a complete photographer nerd, you know, always taking pictures at the ball field of the teams, of the people, he would flash those pictures up on the walls. And the kids that were playing music and their guitars would come in and they'd play music. And it just grew and grew and grew until they had to stop it because people were lined up to go inside.
Wow.
And then I got like an accommodation from my city that, you know, it wasn't just me, it was myself and a few friends.
Yeah.
But we did it, you know, it was just something that just had a passion to do something. And then when I was in college, you talk about the parade.
Yeah.
I ran the homecoming parade. college.
Okay, there you go.
You know, I ran the fraternity dance and homecoming and alumni, and I don't know why it just comes easy to me. So where some people freak out, even my high school reunion. 20 years later, I called my hometown and I said, I haven't been in touch with anybody. Is there a reunion? They say, well, nobody wants to run it. I said, I'll run it. They go, but you're in California. I said, and? So,
Yeah.
and I ran it.
Did you bring all those people to California for the
Well,
reunion?
that's going to be the 40-year. Oh, wait, I shouldn't say that many years. But the next reunion will probably be here.
Really? So
well, because more and more people left the East Coast to come out
okay,
here.
there we go.
Because I was a
Okay.
trendsetter. They all followed me out here. But it was easy for me to set up the place and the caterer and the food and the bands and entertainment. And that's it. When I got there, almost everything was done.
Amazing.
Yeah, it came easy to me all that time. I was involved with college. I won all these awards in college for just being involved.
Yeah.
I never.
Where did you go to college?
University of Miami.
Okay. So you're a guy who likes being involved. You like to be with people. You like to make things happen.
So one day, somebody passed in front of my office, a guy I knew, an older guy, and he said, "Hey, you want to have lunch?" And I said, "Sure." So we go down to the YMCA, and we have lunch, and it was their board meeting. He introduced me to people, and a few weeks later, they asked me to be on the board. And that started spiraling out of control because all of a sudden I was doing this board and that board, and even today I'm on the exec board for the Chamber of Commerce, the exec board for the Pier Corporation,
Sure.
Santa Monica Pier, I'm the head of Santa Monica Sister Cities.
Yep. Oh,
We
no.
send kids on one-to-one exchanges, like a student ambassador exchange, and cultural exchanges. So I've been involved.
Yeah.
I started the Ocean Park. I'm coming around to
Yeah.
the parade. So I
so
started the Ocean Park Association with friends.
Okay.
There were 5 or 7 of us. And that was back almost 20 years ago. The neighborhood organization that preceded us kind of became defunct. There was weird things and,
Yeah.
changing generations. So along with the friends of mine, the 7 of us started the Ocean Park Association.
So let me just back up because everyone here who's listening to this podcast, say Jeff is not from Santa Monica. So we're talking about Santa Monica, California, and Jeff is now relocated Santa Monica. You found Santa Monica. Did you come here? Was this where you had your 2-week initial
It was close.
heyday? Okay,
it was close.
close.
It was in the marina.
Okay, that's
And
pretty
I didn't
good.
like the marina because it felt like I was in a hotel. I don't know, the underground parking, and
Yeah.
even in Manhattan, you don't have underground parking, But it was underground. I came to Santa Monica and I saw old people playing shuffleboard on the Palisades Park,
Sure.
and it just kind of struck a nerve. I said, "Oh my God, that's great. There's diversity. There's old people, young people,
Yeah.
And the funny thing was that my mother came out to visit, and she said, "I don't know why you live here. It's such a weird place." I said, "Oh, Mom, what's wrong with Santa Monica?" She said, "There's people on the beach, and it's Tuesday." And I realized I had an epiphany why I moved 3,000 miles away.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm here.
That's
It's because
exactly
it's
why I'm here.
Tuesday and we're people at the beach.
That's right.
Enjoying it.
It's unheard of. On the East Coast, you just don't go to the beach during the week. You look forward to the weekends. You go out
Yeah.
to the Hamptons, you go out to Fire Island, you go to the beach, but not
Not on Tuesday.
on
Well,
Tuesday.
the people who are on the beach on Tuesday a lot of them are actually people who are from New York. They're actually not from California because
That's
we have jobs out here too. But so I do want to. I'm watching our time here, Jeff. We're going to take a minute break here for a second, but I want to get into this whole idea of the 4th of July parade because a week from today is going to be the 4th of July, and we're celebrating the birth of America. And I'm curious about a little bit about, and you can, as we take this break, during our break, I want you to think about this. The reason why 4th of July is important to you, and why we need to celebrate, and why you got involved with this whole thing. So, friends, we are having a conversation today with Jeff Jarow. He is involved. He's got a lot of hats that he wears. Particularly a week from today, he's going to be running the 4th of July parade in Santa Monica, California. And so we will be right back in 1 minute.
The Hamilton Review podcast is brought to you by Hamilton Babies, 9 kid-friendly products designed for the little loves in your life. Find them at hamiltonbabies.com or amazon.com. Also consider Dr. Hamilton's recently published book, 7 Secrets of the Newborn, available at Barnes & Noble, your local independent bookstore, and amazon.com.
So, friends, welcome back to the Hamilton Review. We're having a conversation today with Jeff Jarow. Jeff is, a week from today, is going to be heading up the Santa Monica 4th of July parade. So, Jeff, you were, before we broke for a minute there, we were talking a little bit about your organization, the Ocean Park Association. So you began that about 20 years ago. Tell us, kind of give us a little bit of backdrop on that one, and then how the parade, which has been now going for 16 years, how that came about.
So prior to the Ocean Park Association was it was called OPCO,
Okay.
Ocean Park Community Organization. And out of that group, there were a lot of political people that came to the forefront and ran for council and mayors. Anyway, that disbanded about 21 years ago. And there was a need for something else in the neighborhood
Sure.
for those of us that were still left standing. So we started the Ocean Park Association. There were 7 of us, maybe a few more in the beginning, but our first board, after we founded it, was probably 7 to 10 people. Then some people from OPCO came over and they joined us. And the logo, not the mission statement, but the logo was "Your Neighborhood, Your Voice."
Yeah.
And I wanted people to stay focused on our neighborhood because we're the beach community of Santa Monica.
Yeah.
We don't share similarities with where you live on the north side of town, and we don't share with the east side of town. It's very specific to the bike path and the boardwalk, beach community.
Sure.
So we stayed focused there, and sometimes there are bigger issues that take in the whole of Santa Monica, but it's a slippery slope because it doesn't concern us. So I don't want to comment on your neighborhood, and if we have problems, I don't expect other neighborhoods to be
Sure.
helping us out. So that was the premise of the Ocean Park Association, and then a couple of years later, one of the other board members, Lori Nafshin, who's a close friend of mine, she and I started and organized the 4th of July parade.
Yeah.
I took care of the fundraising. I took care of the floats. I took care of the music, the bands, and because of my involvement around town, I was able to get people to pony up and sponsor. And all the sponsors are on the poster that we hand out and social media and whatever. And she took care of the other nuts and bolts. A couple of years later, she left, and don't need to get into the specifics, but she left. And I said, well, I still want to do this,
Yeah.
And it was fun. And the first couple of years, I drove a tractor down Main Street with a 40-foot flatbed. And it was a scene. And I have great pictures of my son and I sitting in the cab of the tractor waving to everybody. And a group was called Super Broke, musicians that weren't making money as musicians, but had other careers, but they always wanted to play. And they dressed up as superheroes.
Okay.
And they got on there, and we put bales of hay on there and Adirondack chairs and palm trees, and the band played on, and it was fantastic, and it grew and it grew and it grew. So now we have close to 100 applications to be in the parade.
Wow.
Which takes in about 1,500 people in the parade.
1,500 people. Wow. So who's in this parade?
We have some group called the Lighthouse.
Yeah?
You've heard of them.
I know those guys.
Oh, good. Okay.
They have a big flag.
They have a big flag.
They have the biggest flag in town.
That's right. That's right. We have the police, the fire, the hospitals come in. We have various groups, the preschools on tricycles.
Sure.
The junior highs. We have the Santa Monica High School Marching Band.
Wow.
We have high school kids that bring the Latin jazz on a float. I call them floats, but they're trucks
they're
with
flatbeds.
Yeah, flatbeds, or they call them stake beds. We have high school students that graduated. They're in college. They come back. They get their old buddies together. They have a jazz, and then there's Latin jazz, and then there's klezmer, and it just goes on. And we have teachers that are involved that taught jazz or music at high school, and they have a
Sure.
little group, and they want to be part of it. Uh, Rich Caparella from the Santa
Rich
Monica
Capper.
Symphony
Sure. Yeah.
comes on with his buddies, and they play. They're like
They're a Beatle
a
band.
cover
No,
Beatle
they're
band.
a cover Beatle band. Yeah.
That's right.
No, Rich Caparella, for
That's
those in the LA area, he's KUSC, he's the voice of KUSC, the classical station here.
That's
And Rich, that's amazing. I didn't realize it. So Rich is part of your parade too.
For years. For years. We've had the kids' symphony, but the police want us to cover the flatbed with railings, and then you can't see the kids. So that doesn't happen anymore, which is too bad, because
Yeah.
it's exciting to see 20, 30 kids on the back of a big flatbed
Yeah.
and participating. But we've had horses on there from the police. We've had the Great Western Stagecoach, which is no longer, because animal activists thought it was cruel to have them march down the street. So we don't do that. Wells Fargo doesn't do it anymore.
Huh.
Uh,
Okay. Well, that's
So that's just a sign of the times. And
That's too bad.
that's
Yeah.
where it went. But
Yeah.
but like I said, we have 1,500 people in the parade, and we attract maybe 12,000 to 15,000 people that sit on the curbs.
Well, so and it's patriotic. Is it
It's patriotic. We
Yeah.
try to get everybody in the parade to get dressed up, and we decorate the trucks, we decorate the cars. We used to supply all of the decorations, but it gets a little out of hand. So we insist people come and do something, and we buy little swag, for lack of a better word. I hate to call the American flag swag,
Yeah.
but little flags, so little kids that maybe aren't dressed up. But
Right.
it's a spiritual thing. You have people that came from all over the country, and here we are at Mayberry, is what I call it. It's down home, hometown, Main Street parade.
So
And it's
let
just
me-
like Mayberry.
Yeah.
Even though it's gotten to 15,000 people, it
Yeah.
still feels. We have great pictures of kids sitting on the curb and getting excited. Sometimes people hand out stuff. Can't throw. It's not the New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big Mardi Gras where people throw beads
Yeah.
at you. But they hand out stuff.
Well, I mean, I think that it's wonderful that, here we are in Santa Monica, California. Santa Monica is not known for necessarily being the hotbed of patriotism necessarily. But the fact that this is a very sweet thing. And I think that well, there's nothing like a parade. I mean, people love to watch parades, and I'm not surprised that 15,000 people show up to watch people to
Yes.
go by. Jeff, we were talking before the show here a little bit about 4th of July. What does 4th of July mean to you, and why is this this idea of patriotism something that you hold dear to your heart?
So I think I grew up during an era where people really believed in the country, were part of the country. It wasn't so polarized,
Yeah.
and I think we have to get back to that. And I still put my hand on my heart and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, or sing, God Bless America or Star Spangled Banner.
Sure.
And I think it's important. It pulls people together. And at a time when there's more polarization, that we need to come back. It needs to be closer from the left and the right side, closer together, and start agreeing on certain issues instead of, this conflict that people have with each other.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, when I think about America, Jeff, just my feelings, this is a country which is kind of based on people agreeing to work together and be together and exist together. And we have traditionally, there have been ups and downs. We've had our challenges throughout the history of this country. We know the history. Certain things we've done right, some things we've done really wrong. And
just like in life, right?
Yeah, just like in life. But I think that the American vision of providing that sense of liberty, that sense of freedom, that sense that you can really, you as an individual, have the opportunity to prosper and grow. I mean, both individually as human beings, financially prosper, if you're willing to work and make it happen. And aren't too many countries in the world that really offer those opportunities to people. There's a reason why so many people want to come to America. There's a reason why we have right now. I mean,
That's
as
right.
we talk, there's a crisis going on our southern border. People are wanting to come here, not leave the country per se. And I think that has been the history of America for the 200 years plus that we have been around. But I happen to say that I love America. I am thankful for the opportunities I've
Right.
had here as an individual. Just in the incredible, it offers to the immigrants when they do come to this country, and we were all ultimately immigrants, our parents, grandparents, somebody who came here and made a life, and I'm proud to be an American. Your thoughts about patriotism?
Yeah, well, I think that's important. I mean, I still get goosebumps when I see the Olympics and I see the Americans on the top tier, even the second and third tier. But it's exciting when they hold up the American flag, you know.
Yeah.
And I've traveled all over the world, and I get treated differently because I'm an American, and I mean that in a good sense.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to talk to me because I'm an American,
Yeah.
you know, and that's nice. I'm not sure we offer the same to people coming in. Is that you or me? I'm not sure. Sorry, gang. It's on the buzzer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we offer the same to people coming in. I was on the Travel and Tourism Board for 9 years and chaired it for a few years.
Yeah.
And we just had a tourism summit yesterday. And, it's important to have people come to our country and see America and feel America. And I think we offer so much, there's so many opportunities here.
Yeah.
But you can't come here and just expect it. People put in their life, put hard work into their life to attain that American dream. It just doesn't happen,
Yeah. No,
and it's important.
I think that the people who come, I think most people don't want to be on the dole. They want to come
They
here.
want to come here. That's right.
They want to. They're willing to
That's
work,
right.
and I do find actually many of the new immigrants to this country, and I get to deal with them as their pediatrician. I see that they're here to make a better life for themselves. The opportunities that are here are certainly different than, and I have traveled all over the world as
Also.
well, particularly to Africa. And I can tell you that if many of the people I've dealt with in Africa had the opportunity to actually come here and become citizens, they would jump at it because they recognize the opportunities that are here. And that is something I think we need to celebrate. And we need to celebrate America, wave the flag, sing the national anthem. It's a good thing. And continue to build this country. Yes, we have our challenges. Yes, we're going to meet those challenges. And I agree that the polarization is stifling. I also think, too, that the polarization is a little bit exaggerated because I know people who think differently than I think, and I can still have conversation with them. We
That's right.
there is a sensationalism to a degree, Jeff, and you would either agree or disagree about that.
But it's a sign of the times,
Well, I think there is. I mean, there is some polarization, but a lot of people who think differently they're not crazy people, and the majority of the time, I can still can converse with them without coming to blows. And I think that right there is a reason to celebrate.
There needs to always be discussion and open-mindedness. And before I bump the mic again, you could have conversations between these parameters,
Yeah.
maybe even these parameters. But when the conversations go way out here and way out here, it pulls and people are stuck on their way of thinking.
Yeah.
And for somebody like me that always says yes to things instead of no, I like to be around people that you have that conversation and you make things work. You don't fight it and walk away from the table. It's important that everybody converses and puts their thoughts out on the table. You don't
Yeah.
always have to agree, but at least come a little closer so there's not hostility on either side.
Well, I think that, just kind of finishing up on this conversation of America. I mean, when I look around the world and I think about the contributions that America has made to the world, fighting two major world wars for the sake of freedom, and certainly in World War II, we rescued an entire continent, namely the European continent, from despotism and serious, that would have been a bad situation had not America woken up and come to that fight. But you think about the goodness that America has brought to the world is unbelievable. And I have traveled, like I say, particularly to Africa, many, many times. Just got back from a medical team a few short weeks ago. And there are good things that we have brought to the world. And my hope is that we continue to be that, as Ronald Reagan famously said, a city on a hill, that light on the hill that brings hope and healing to the world, and to the people out there for the sake of liberty, for the sake of freedom.
That's right, because that's the balance that's needed globally, and I think it's important that we lead the way.
Yeah, and I think we continue to be that leader. I really do, and we need to celebrate that. And I'm glad, Jeff. I have to say, first of all, I want to honor you for a couple of things. Number one, just your involvement with the community. Obviously, the parade is something that is right now happening, very proximate for you. But I think just in general, your interest. I want everyone to know here that I actually met Jeff Jarow by serving on the board of directors for the Santa Monica Symphony. That's where we met, if you recall. Yeah. And just amazing. Your reach into certainly the local Santa Monica community has been amazing. The fact that you also have undertaken this 4th of July parade, which is such a very important event, and the fact that it has grown and grown to have this kind of footprint in Santa Monica is something that you should really be proud of, and I'm sure you are.
It's the biggest event in Santa Monica that's all-inclusive and free.
Yeah. Wow. There we go.
It takes in everything and everybody. And that's special. That means a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, that should. And so, Jeff Jarow, thank you for doing what you're doing. Friends, you have been listening today to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. We've had a great conversation today with Jeff Jarow. He's in his spare time, he's a real estate, commercial real estate broker. In his other time, which seems to be probably consuming a fair amount of your time, he's involved in the community. Go to the 4th of July parade a week from today. Tell everyone how they can find the parade.
Look for the 15,000 people on the street.
But where is it located? Where does it begin?
It's going to be on Main Street in Santa Monica. It goes from City Hall by Pico.
Yep.
And then it'll finish. We go back and forth, but I think this year we're going to keep it leaving at City Hall and going down to the edge of Santa Monica and Venice on Marine, and then it curves around into the beach lot.
Beautiful.
It starts at 9:30. Try to get there without a car because it's going to be difficult to get through. I mean, it's not going to be traffic jams, but there's no parking on Main Street.
Yeah.
And the parking lot gets filled up really fast. And we shut down the streets at 6 to 6:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So best to take a bicycle.
So ride your bike that day. You'll get down. It's a great day to ride a bike.
It's fun. You can have breakfast at one of the many restaurants there and watch it from your own seat. It's like having a box seat at the parade. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
All good.
Okay, so friends, Jeff Jarow, check out the 4th of July parade this next week in Santa Monica, California. If you don't have a place to go for a parade, you know where to find one.
We look forward to seeing you.
Yes, from wherever you're from. So, Jeff, thanks for taking the time to come over and be in the studio today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks.
And friends, thanks
for having me.
You're welcome. We've been listening to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Hamilton Review, where kids and culture collide. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your day. Tune in again next week on Apple Podcast. Rate and comment and tell a friend.